two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Moies Galore. I am one of your hosts, and today we are going to go on about a movie that was put forward by my fiance Tammy, but unfortunately she's feeling under the weather today, so let's keep her in our prayers, and hopefully the sickness will go away overnight or whatever. But the film that she chose was a film that was filmed in 2009, a film that stars Sandra Bullock among many other actors and actresses. A film called The Blind Side, and I believe we are going along a sports type theme. I forget what the name of the theme was, but I think it was
March Madness. Didn't you know from all the football?
Oh, damn. Well, I guess I'm a little mad about it. But anyways, let us see what IMDb says about this film. Let me bring up the information. Let's see. The Blind Side. It looks like it has a rating of 7.6 out of 10 on that Richter scale there. But I guess this is the story of Michael Orr, a homeless and traumatized boy who became an All-American football player and first-round NFL draft pick with the help of a caring woman and her family. Little do we know about the true story behind this inspired film. Let's go into first impressions. Let's go with
Dave. I don't know if you said, but you said.
Sorry, I did not say the director yet.
Yeah.
The director is John Lee Hancock, not the superhero kind.
Right.
And Quentin Aaron is the actor who plays Michael Orr. Sandra Bullock plays Leah Ann Tui. And Tim McGraw, the country singer, plays Sean Tui. Jay Head played S.J. Tui. And man, has he grown up since then. Because this was a while ago.
Yeah.
And Lily Collins played Collins Tui.
Lily Collins, known as the daughter of one Phil Collins, so we have a couple of musical connections here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did Brandon? Did you want to go into your first impressions of this film?
So, with me, I remember watching this for the Oscars back when I actually cared about the Oscars. But they kind of blew out any interest I had last year. I think last year was the last year I actually gave any like semblance. But I watched this, and at the time, I was a little leery of the story, but not quite so much as I am now. Because back then, there were two types of stories that were considered progressive, but really were not. One was the type of story where you had a person of color helping a main white character achieve success. Matter of fact, I got a romantic comedy with the name about that.
Magical Negroes.
Yes. And then the other type that was considered progressive at the time is the type that this is, where you've got sort of a white savior saving a down on their luck person of color. Which is lovingly deemed the white savior type movie. again, a lot of us were usually looked at this, and the people who judged it progressive were, oddly enough, white Hollywood elites. So I guess there's something said. But the first time I watched it, I really liked the acting. I thought it was very well done. Overall, music was excellent. Overall, very well done film. This time I actually watched it after reading the story behind it, and some of the stuff that I discovered about the Tuohys and about some of the inconsistencies and Michael Oher's actual background with it. That definitely the movie was to put like some nice rose-colored glasses on it, and among other things like the Tuohys getting a nice little deal of $225,000 plus 2.5% residuals, with Michael Oher getting nothing from the story, which kind of contradicts the whole message of the story of he's one of the family, especially considering their daughter and son were included in that, but not him. The supposed adoption, for instance, was a conservatorship that he was told was an adoption that happened when he was 18, but you can't adopt somebody at 18.
Actually, you can. Adult adoption does exist.
But yeah, this was an actual legal conservatorship, which the Tullys had said was needed to help him get into the college and to fight the NCAA. But the real reason, it seems, was that they wanted to be able to basically make legal decisions in his name and profit off of the story. Now, there are other little things, but I thought I would lead with those because those are the big animals in the room, and that's the and that first one. I mean, the second one there is one of the things that he was suing for. So I watched this, and it felt more sinister overall when I watched it. Still well acted, still well done. Sandra Bullock deserved her Oscar win for her acting. She was amazing in it. And I do love the fact that she won Best and Worst Actress in the same year. And I can't say that I would want to have taken away because
and that she showed
it was hilarious.
Playing both awards.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the movie gives me the ick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all I have to say about that.
It gives me the ick.
Okay. Well, I hear Kim in the background. Kim, did you want to give an opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
You're not gonna like what I have to say, though.
I don't care.
As the sole person of color in this chat. Huh?
Well, I figured since you were, I heard you in the background, it sounded like you wanted to speak your mind. So, what was your first impressions of the blind side? Or are you blinded by the whites?
Babe, did you mute me? No. Okay. As the sole person of color in this chat, I will say this. When the movie first came out, I was like, really, y'all? Really? Again? Another more with this shit? Saw us in the movie. And it's the way that the movie is done, very Hollywood. It's very heartwarming. It's very sweet. You know, that he gets the family he always wanted. They love him so much and blah, blah, blah. And then you hear what was actually going on. And the fact that these people, these rich people, they were very wealthy, by the way, essentially scammed this kid. Oh, and the story about his mom being a crackhead and how he didn't have a bed or nothing like that, his own, what they call his own, all lies made up by Hollywood. His mother was not no damn crackhead. He did have his own bed growing up. He was already at that school to begin with, apparently. Well, he was a scholarship kid.
According to the book he wrote, he did say that she did have on and off times with the crack, because she actually put when she wasn't on the crack, she was perfect mother. It's when she was on it, that's when we didn't know when we were going to get fed the next day.
Yeah, but it wasn't nearly as bad as they made it seem in the fucking movie, though, babe. Yeah. That's the problem. He knew how to play fucking football, by the way. He didn't need little Miss Toy, Leanne, to sit there and teach him how to play football. He also played basketball, and I think he played baseball, too. Yeah. The kid was a sports star.
He was active in 3 different sports.
3 different fucking sports. Lettered in 3 sports. But they got him out here looking like a big dummy.
Yeah, he was active in track.
Like giant. Cool. Huh? Say what?
Let me turn this up.
In fact, if I remember correctly, he himself actually said he hated how this actor played dumb.
They made him look like a big dummy, like he was special needs or something like that. Yeah. I was like, okay, this actor in question, I know he doesn't talk like that in real life. I've seen him in other stuff. He doesn't sound like that. So what was the thought process behind the direction of how he was to portray Michael Orr? And I mean, just basically, I know Hollywood does this shit as far as they had to make the white lady look good. They had to make it seem like, again, the white savior stuff. But I already had the ick when the movie came out, 14 years ago?
Yeah.
And now here we are hearing the story of how he got scammed.
Yep.
That conservatorship he was under, he was still under that conservatorship when he was with the NFL.
Yeah.
So they had access to his money in all legal matters regarding him. What? But they said
I was going to say that he did not get a cent from this movie.
No, he didn't. They screwed him out of that too. And because he was under conservatorship, they were the ones making the decisions. So they decided he wouldn't get done, but their 2 underage children would.
Yeah.
And they profited off it. He did not profit from the movie at all. And they were like, well, that's the one thing that they have not disputed. They were like, well, yeah. It's like, do y'all not realize you look fucking terrible? And then the fact that they had access to his NFL money when he was in the NFL. That's the other fucked up thing right there. So you know what? The movie itself, great acting from Sandra Bullock. But the story itself, fuck this movie. Fuck it so much. I don't know, not near one black person that looks at this movie fondly. And now that we got the story coming out of what was really going on behind the scenes, oh yeah, definitely fuck this movie. I side out of hell out of any white person adopting black babies from the hood. Because even in my own town, we saw that shit where people are adopting these kids that were sports stars and manipulating the whole situation. We had one kid who was being neglected by his mama, but he was a football star in our school. So the coaches got together and got one of the white teachers at our school to adopt him. Was it legal? Hell no. They just called CPS. They showed up to his house and took him. Next thing you know, he's living with our teacher. I was like, no, I side eye any white person who adopts black children. I really do, because I always had to question, what's your motives behind it? Because there's always some sort of ulterior motive. And this movie is just one of the many stories out there of that shit happening to people. So yeah, again, fuck this movie. Sorry. And I'm done ranting now. I got to figure out my calories for the day.
Okay. Heading over to you, Jake. Was this the first time watch? And what were your first thoughts on this movie?
This was not a first time. This was not a first time watch. I saw it, during the Oscar season, because it was one of those, there was this huge narrative behind it of, yes, this was one of those kind of movies that I kind of hate to, I kind of hate to be one of those ones like dumping on the liberal elite and all that stuff. But I will admit they do have their flaws, and one of them is a fondness for this kind of narrative.
Thank goodness it seems to have been with Green Book.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm,
man.
I'm tired of the liberal elites in Hollywood pulling this shit. And I say that as a liberal.
Yeah,
Liberal white
it's in
people in
here.
Hollywood love movies like this. They
Same
fucking
here.
love them.
I'm probably much further left than the politics of this film, but I still look at it and I'm like, this is, But when I saw it at the time, the narrative more than anything else was that, oh my God, this is Sandra Bullock's year. She is such a sweetheart and everyone loves her, and it's time she got her Oscar. And that was the narrative. And I thought the movie was vastly overhyped when I saw it. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought Sandra Bullock did a great job. It was actually one of the films that helped change my impression, because honestly, I didn't like her for a long time. It was one of the movies that kind of, and not necessarily because she is not likable in this film, but she does do a great job. But one who is likable in this film, I have long been a believer that Tim McGraw needs to do more acting. He's very likable in this film as Sean Tui. He's in the way he's portrayed in the film. He's very likable. Most of the Tuis, except for Leanne, are actually very likable in the film. Although this film had the same problem that the Remember the Titans almost had. A overly energetic, overly hyped up little kid at the center of the cast. Although, whereas Hayden Panettiere knocked it out of the park, this kid just, I kind of joked that someone gave him 10 too many pixie sticks before they started. And I really think so. Like, he was hyped up on something. But, and again, this was one of our first looks at Lily Collins, who a couple years later, she did Mirror, Mirror, and she should be doing more than she has been, I think. But,
Well, she's got Emily in Paris thing going on.
What's that?
She's doing Emily in Paris. She's got her own show on Netflix.
Okay, good deal. I'm not good at following shows very well at all.
Well, she is doing good. She's in Paris.
Well, there you go. But yeah, it is kind of interesting that she's the daughter of a famous singer, and here she's playing the daughter of someone played by a famous singer. I found that kind of amusing, and that her name in the movie is Collins, and she's actually named Collins. But anyway, my initial impression was basically that, okay, I can see why people are rallying behind this. I think there are better female performances this year. I did not think Sandra Bullock was the best performance of the year, but I could see why the narrative was there. And I could see why people liked the film, because on a purely, like, just looking at it as a sports film, as a people trying to help their fellow man kind of film. Now, when you learn more, at the time I didn't know, of course, what we all know now, or at least what a lot of people know now. And I didn't even know much about what was known then. Another thing that we should mention is that this is based on a book by Michael Lewis, who is a very talented author who usually does a lot of good research. He must have maybe skimped on the research on this particular story. But also, it's not the full book that's adapted here. It's a part of the book. Of course, he eventually went on to do two books that became very successful films, Moneyball and The Big Short. And I've read The Big Short. It is an excellent book. And both movies were good. But it's overall, I've heard so much about this since then. Michael Orr has always been vocal that he doesn't like the way he was portrayed in the film. Contrary to what David said, I don't think he didn't diss the actor. He actually said the acting was really good. It just wasn't him. So I think it must have been an issue. The director must have said, you know what, we need to And now I do want to go back and read the book and see how Lewis presented the story originally, and then we can see how much of this is on the director.
I want to say that Jewies were consulted on the film, but he was not.
Yes.
But Michael Orr was not.
Yeah, that was the problem. That they were consulted, and that's the justification that they use now in court for why they deserve to get money, but he doesn't, because it's technically their story, not his. That's the offense they're going with. What?
That sounds so good, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the story. That's the justification these fuckers are going with.
And and also, it's like at the end of the film, they show pictures of the different people, and like I always thought, like that was one of my initial impressions was, you know what, Michael Orr doesn't really look a whole lot like this guy that plays him, does he? And also the same thing about Sean Toohey. I'm like, really? Tim McGraw looks nothing like this dude, but the others, but those two, I was like, okay, well, there may have been some vanity casting on the part of Sean Toohey. And again, what were they going for with Orr? I can see why he was kind of like, really, this guy? Quentin Aaron does a great job with the performance, but it's, I don't know. It must not be super accurate at all. This is probably my third time seeing the film, and it's been a while since I've seen it last, and a lot has come to light. You guys mentioned the lawsuit. That was what, last year?
Yeah,
it's still ongoing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was last year that a lot of this came to light. Mm-hmm. Like there were rumblings all along, but this is, and Orr put out his book a few years later, about 4 or 5 years later. So his version of the story has been out there rumbling around for a while. I guess it might be worth reading that too at some point. But at any rate, this time around, I came at it with a very different perspective. And if you look at it strictly as a movie, let's say this was a fictional story.
Yeah.
One could say that it's a very well-crafted film, maybe a little skeevy in the particulars, but mostly an entertaining film. But if one looks at it as a quote-unquote true story, it falls apart pretty quickly. And based on what I know about the background, I definitely had a very different viewing of it this time around. And I guess the long and short of it is some movies don't hold up as well over time as we would like.
No. Like I said, this used to be what was considered progressive back in the day. Right. When we go back to like Driving Miss Daisy, things like that. Even, I mean, King is sadly very guilty of doing this, of doing the magical, well,
what was that? What was that? What was that on the tip of your fucking tongue?
No, narrative.
Yes,
again, but different one.
Driving Miss Daisy is definitely one that has.
You almost got bitch slapped there.
Bitch slap? Nah, I'm not gonna put my hands on him. I would just show him that freaking door.
But that was
he would get the look.
I mean, Shawshank Redemption, another good example. Amazing movie, but. And these movies were considered extremely progressive back in the day. But who was it that...
You're talking about The Green Mile.
And The Green Mile.
Oh, The Green Mile. My God.
So like I say,
My name is John Coffey. Like to drink only. Smell different.
Because after Green Book and it came out that dude was actually really a major racist himself... I think Hollywood finally learned to distance himself from that type of movie.
Did they?
I mean, his own family were like, I'm sorry, but who we talking about here? That's not my damn daddy. I'm tired of shit.
Right.
Indeed.
Well, in any case, is that your first impressions then, Jake?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Okay, Brandon, were you starting to say something?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Well, this was actually my first time watching the movie. Back in 2009, I remember it was one that Tammy wanted to see, so I made sure that she got to see it at the time. But for some reason, because I'm not a huge sports movie fanatic, it just didn't interest me at the time, and honestly, I didn't really hear the other side of the story, at least until we started talking about coming on for this movie. So hearing about the real side of the story and what was going on, I was hearing through you guys. So I'm sorry that I wasn't exactly newsworthy, well aware of the situation. But now that I am, yes, they fucking Hollywoodized the movie. If everything is as Orr says they truly are, you know. So, and from what I understand, is the situation entirely gone in his favor? Does anyone know? Has he?
Suit's still ongoing.
Have his allegations won him anything?
The suit's ongoing. It's not been sorted out yet.
Okay, so
but take some time.
Does it seem like it's falling into his favor? Okay, so it's still an ongoing process even to this day, and that's like 14 years.
At least as far as public opinion
goes. Well, it's actually more than 14 years.
The Tuohys have not done themselves any favors by what they've been saying. So, yeah.
Well, again, the lawsuit's been about a year old, if even that. But yeah, so but he's been making comments all along that the way they portrayed him wasn't quite correct, that they really did play fast and loose with some of the chronology, and he pointed out a lot of that in his book, apparently, and in interviews. But he stopped the whole thing about the conservatorship. He apparently didn't know about until very recently. Everyone was saying that he was basically adopted, and that's and in the movie they do basically say that he's almost 18. A regular adoption wouldn't really be the way to go. They do kind of make that distinction, but it's still
but it's technically
yeah. What's that?
Would your adoptive mother or father be called a legal guardian?
Well, yeah,
because that's what they refer to it in the movie.
Yeah.
As.
Well, okay. Well, let's put it this way: where I work, for people to get
I know that. To me, I would call them adoptive mother and adoptive father. That's what I would call it. But I know it's different terminology.
Illegal guardian can be a term that can work.
Not my biological mother. Not my biological
It can work.
father.
No, it can work in conjunction with any number of other terms. What I'm trying to say is, where I work, you have to be a legal guardian to sign someone up for a card. It doesn't matter your actual relationship. If you are their legal guardian, you can do it. That is the terminology we use, and that goes for parents, grandparents, adoptive parents, doesn't matter. So it is a term that can use in conjunction with any number of other things. Whether the kid themselves would use that term, well, everyone's different. But
well,
okay.
I'm trying to think of when it comes to that. Also, they portrayed him as a lot younger than he was. I mean, he was 18 when they did that. So,
Well, they portrayed him as nearly 18 here. So but yeah, he is younger in the movie, partly because they condensed the timeline. They definitely condensed the timeline. anyway. So are we launching
Oh yeah, they
into
definitely did.
or are we doing I know
Yes,
Tammy probably
in fact, did you want to bring us into the storyline, and then I'll pick up maybe in a couple of scenes or whatnot, or
what I was going to say was I know Tammy might have trouble speaking, but did she have some thoughts that she wanted to share as a first impression? Because I don't think we got one, but I don't know.
she told me she didn't want to. She didn't want to do or say
Okay.
anything right now. She is listening, but
Okay.
okay. She just doesn't feel the greatest. So,
Okay.
but we can go into
I will
the
say
main story.
I will say I when I first watched this movie, I didn't know about all this other background either. I didn't know. I knew some of it before we watched it this time, and they do a little bit more. As we were watching it, because I read that article that David sent me. Excuse me. When I watched it the first time, it sounded interesting. I didn't really know anything about it, and like you guys were saying, true Hollywood style. It seemed like a nice, wholesome movie. To help the poor kid out. And like a rags to riches type of thing. But I was disappointed after I found out about the background, because of how the movie seems so good and it's so wholesome, and then find out the background, it's like, well, that's not very nice, and that's not fair to Michael. So I thought the movie was a decent movie, but then knowing what I know now, it kind of, it kind of tricks you into thinking it's a good movie. So, but I guess I still liked it.
Yeah, they were trying to turn it into a nice family movie.
I still liked it. I just don't like knowing the background of it now. I almost feel bad for liking it as much as I did when I first watched it.
Right.
So. Okay.
Well, yep. A lot of us, well, not all of us, but a lot of us did like it better when we first watched it than most of us did when we heard the background of it.
Right.
And me, having watched it for the first time, even knowing some of the background, if you were trying to make a family movie, it works for that kind of thing. But that movie is an entire farce of the true nature of the story. There is nothing that was told that was entirely the truth.
I don't know about that.
Actually, the part about this that I thought was the most fun when it came to the truth is that when they had the NCAA person in there and talking about her argument as to why she was not very happy with that, with the decision for him to go to Ole Miss, is that she was actually saying exactly what was going on at the time. She had laid it out exactly as it is, and there's a part of me that wonders if the Tuohys put that in there as a little aside, yep, that's right, and we get away with it too. I
would have got away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yep.
Instead of should we have actually asked him what he wanted before we pushed him to this point, kind of thing. So
I thought it was
But,
interesting that the movie was self-aware enough to include those viewpoints. And again, you do have to wonder, like, is this a reflection of the book where Lewis's research necessarily would have included this information? Or is this a reflection on the director trying to deflect and make it look like he's telling a balanced story? Or was it the Tuohy's trying to slip something in there to get one over on? You really have to wonder, exactly where all that came from. Because the movie does play at presenting several viewpoints. Whether it's sincere in all of them is hard to say, but it does at least acknowledge that they exist, which could be seen as a good move, or it could be seen as a very cynical move, I guess.
Okay, so let's take a look at the main plot point of the movie as it is. We'll take the true backstory, which we know is coming about as being the truth, because it's an ongoing case that's always in the back of everybody's mind. Let's look at the movie as what it is, and start where they start. So I believe it begins with a father taking his two sons to a school, and him actually talking to the coach of this school. The name of it was Wingrave, right? I know it's kind of a Christian school, private school, or what not, but they're kind of known for their football.
And that was one of
the field, and I know the father really wants his. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going. I'm sorry. I was going to say that was one of the changes. That was one of the changes that they made right out of the gate, was the naming of the school, because the school involved was actually what was it called? It started with a B, Briarcrest. But the school administrators objected to the script. Particularly, they objected to the way the teachers were portrayed. They didn't want to look as being unchristian, I guess you could say. So they changed the name of the school to, because for that reason. So, and it's notable that the guy, this is essentially the guy on whose couch Orr is sleeping at the moment. He is the father to one of the two boys, but Orr kind of followed along.
Yes, that's true. And Michael is portrayed as kind of like this kid who was just sleeping on dude's couch, and he is noticed by the coach as to his size and the way that he plays basketball. How he's just amazed at how big and hulking he is, and he's like, I gotta have him on my team, kind of idea, But he brings it to the school board, which they aren't all like for it at the moment, because his grades are failing. In fact, every school he's been to has just passed him with D's, because they just want to pass the buck on him. That's pretty much what's going on. We do
like
have the coach saying, well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, you may have been getting ready to say what I was going to say. I was going to say I did like that the coach held their feet to the fire by saying, if you're not going to take him on, you might as well just forget about that word. And he points at the Christian in the Christian Academy. He's like, yeah, a lot of people in that position it probably could use a little talking to like that. So I did appreciate that part.
Yep. So that does ultimately get him into the school. The only thing is while he is in the school, he is still getting low grades, and he's starting to get noticed by different people. In fact, Mr. Tui actually noticed him as he's picking up garbage in the stand, and the son, what is it, SJ? He ultimately ends up befriending him in the schoolyard, and they kind of ultimately become like buddies, as the film progresses. I do believe somewhere in between him meeting Mrs. Tui, and there is when one of the school attendants is actually brings him aside and tells him that there was a man who basically killed himself on a scaffolding, and it ended up being his real father, if I remember correctly. And they were trying to find the real person to let know that this is what happened. And I think that's when he was trying to get home to get to his mom, and that's when he was while the Tuies were driving home, they found him walking, there, and they told him to get in the car or whatnot, and they allowed him to spend the night. What is there anything that anyone wants to say about any of this right now? Seton, you look like you wanted to say something. Did you?
Oh, no. Just clear my throat.
Okay. Okay. So the Tuies have picked him up. They get him to their home, and you can tell the look on his face as they pull up to the house that Michael has never seen such luxury as this, and he's looking around like, damn, I don't think I've ever seen a place like this before. And because you see the Norman Rockwell book on the table, she gives him the couch to sleep on, and she goes upstairs with her husband, and basically turns to him, and she's like, "Am I doing the right thing? Or what?
Like,
nothing has really happened. He's only staying the one night."
But like, what kills me about that scene? I said, what kills me about that scene, though, like, again, it's that whole savior complex. Like we're supposed to be like, this boy gonna walk in there. Ooh, this is nice. Y'all ain't got no roaches or nothing. Like, I've never seen someplace this nice before. Oh, Mr. Leanne, this sure is a nice house. Oh, shut the fuck up. It's like, give me a break.
I mean, they made it seem like he was sleeping on the streets, and
I know, right?
He made it pretty clear that not only was he was homeless for time periods during that time, but he never had a time where he was without a roof over his head. He always had friends or family he could crash with, and that would just be during those times that his mother would be there, and then the mother would get off of it for a while, and everything would be back to normal. Mm-hmm. And so he wasn't going from like, I'm going to sleep on the streets to,
as far as he said he was going to the gym, but that was kind of a lie. I think he was actually going to that laundromat that we found him at later. Because I think that was a place that he knew that he could go. Because back then, there were laundromats that were open 24/7. You know, and I imagine that there might have been something exactly like that that he could go and like spend the night at. You know, so but that being said, he spent the night, and she makes a white lady comment. This is what I call a white lady comment, because she was like, should I be concerned that he's not going to steal anything?
Oh my! Why don't you let him up in the motherfucking house then?
Well, the husband did make the better
Right.
Oh, you invited him in, so you know you just got to deal with the consequences.
Well,
I mean, she goes there to invite him in to stay and stuff, and then she gonna be like, "Oh, child, the ghetto."
Actually, you know what Mrs. Tui would be called today?
A Karen.
A Karen. Matter of fact, she is the quintessential Karen. The way she acts, how she holds herself.
You could say that. You could definitely see her wanting to speak to the manager.
I feel like that woman speaks to the manager so everywhere she goes. Sat speaking to the manager.
Although her
Down
friends
speaking to
that
the
she
manager.
goes and dines with are much more Karen than he is.
Be like,
Although
I'll listen to
her
your
friends
manager.
that she
This is
goes
a
and
pop-up.
dines with, like all the
Oh
time,
man, they were
they
awful.
seem like
They
they
were
were like
just, they were just bad people.
downright racist.
Oh, her little church
In fact,
lady.
one of them, I think, was her
yeah.
sister.
Oh yeah.
I think one of them was
that
her
little
sister, because she
It could be.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was saying like it kind of reminded me of oh god, it's a scene I've seen a lot from that show This Is Us that used to come on NBC. Mandy Moore, this is like a flashback to when the kids were still younger, and Mandy Moore's mom was super fucking racist, and her mom's character keeps making snide remarks about the black child they adopted. Who would have thought that he'd be the one to get into private school? Who would have thought that he would have wanted to get all the smarts and straight A's and stuff? You know, and finally Mandy Moore had to check her ass and let her know, Mom, you're a fucking racist, essentially. They turn around and the little black boy that she's adopted is standing right there, has heard all of it. And I'm like, that kind of reminded me of that scene, because I'm like, you know, they these types of people that are super racist like that, like they want to pretend like they're so progressive in some ways, but you know, by giving money to starving African children, but then it's like, I'm sorry, did you take a little colored boy into your home? But why? Why? Aren't you afraid of having him around Collins? What
Yeah.
the fuck, bitch? It's always about the little white girl's gonna get raped.
Yeah, you'd
or the
like
white
to
person
think they'd
from
say
Harvard.
the same thing. You'd
What?
like to think they'd say the same thing about any opportunity of her bringing a boy home who's about her daughter's age. But yeah, you know they wouldn't have been.
No, they wouldn't have. In fact, they'd be encouraging that the daughter gets with the boy. He is
Right.
real cute, Leanne, what the fuck her name is. Leanne, who gives a fuck?
Right.
He sure is cute. But nah, it's got a little big old little black boy. And all of a sudden it's like, well, ain't you worried? For what? Damn, bro.
One of the backstory
tell
things
that they were
about
trying
this that I've heard is one of the things I have read about this. I can't remember if it was in that article. I don't think it was the article Dave sent, but I did read something that Leanne Tui has said in interviews that she was raised by very racist parents, that she was raised to be one, but that she, quote, got, well, I'm not quoting, but like, you know, with the air quotes, we could say she got better.
I mean, she's a young boomer woman white woman in the South. Of course she was raised by racist people. Come on.
Right.
That's
Especially
part
if
of
you're
the
like,
course.
right.
I mean, no, I will say that I would look at this. I'd look at anybody's side eye who just brings a total stranger into my house,
Yes.
and lets them sleep in there. I don't care. I don't care who they are. I don't know you.
Like when my brother found,
The
out.
doors are here.
Like when my brother found that random dude in the parking lot and brought him home to stay the night and without consulting me. And
I'm sorry.
yes,
Jacob. Clayton did what?
you haven't heard that story?
I haven't heard that fucking story.
Yeah, it was this random dude when he was working the night owl shift. He found this guy hanging out. That it's a whole. I know I've told you this story because there's a lot more to it. But basically, when he left, I was missing a few DVDs. Yeah, so annoying.
Yep. 5-finger discount. That's what you're inviting in. Whenever you. Yeah.
And you got to admit,
Bring anyone
people,
up.
you got to admit, people as rich as the Tuohys, even if he had walked off with a pillowcase full of stuff, they could handle it.
Yeah, they can handle that loss. But I admit, like I said, you taking a stranger like that. I mean, it's like when what's his name at that New Year's party or whatnot, he brought in those guys off the street, and suddenly our the whiskey bottle that we had was just suddenly missing.
No, those were his friends. Those were people he worked with. That sketchy Mexican dude, that coked out white girl. No, they stole all that liquor.
Yeah, see,
they stole one of my birthday presents.
Wow.
That wasn't a New Year's party. That was my fucking birthday party.
That's just
yeah.
That is a but that's the thing. That's why I don't. It is kind of racist seeming when she just invites the person in the house. I would expect the husband would be the one to offer that because he didn't know him from Adam. And I'm sorry, but that is a legitimate thing to ask, regardless of the race. If you just got a stranger, but the woman who invites the kid in, you got to be living with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't care what color you are. I am. No, can I sleep on your couch? Hell no, you can't sleep on my motherfucking couch. But look, how about this? Here's $50. Go get yourself one of them Rent by the Hour motels. Maybe get yourself a little call girl while you're at it. And enjoy yourself. But you ain't coming up.
Not for $50.
Oh, yes, you can. Down there off of Laburnum and Williamsburg Road.
No. There are no $50 hotels.
Yeah,
there are no $50 hotels anymore. Look. The cheapest motel is at least $250 now.
Oh shit! Not around here. We got some shit. No, we got some shitty motels around here that are front for sex trafficking operations.
Yeah, I got to admit, on my recent road trip, I think the most expensive night I paid was about $110. And I was staying at hotels, not seedy motels. So,
I think bugs, roaches, in.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. $47 a night.
Is that the one by the airport?
Yeah.
Okay. So that leaves you $3.
A few months ago.
That leaves you $3. That might get you 5 minutes with one of the.
They definitely are.
If you know anything about the Chinatown district in Honolulu at the time of 1942, they used to call them the 3-minute men.
Oh.
But.
Definitely more a reflection on them than anybody else, I would think.
Yeah. Of course, ain't nothing cheap in Hawaii nowadays. I don't know about them, but anyway.
Yeah. So
chances are Mississippi would be a little less pricey than.
But when they get to the next part of the story, I will say that this is where it got really embellished. One, Michael Orr was already pretty good in with that coach because the coach had helped spot him to get him in the first place. So he was already in that school when the Tuohys saw him, and apparently him and that coach were very, very good friends.
Yeah.
Even at that time, and them saying is like, yeah, he doesn't know how to play football. That is like, I don't know what the heck they were thinking about that when he already knew the game.
From what I understand, that was one of Orr's biggest complaints from the word go. Was he was like, I don't know why they didn't think I could play. Yeah, like
I know how to play football. What the hell is this shit?
Yeah. I mean, they do.
Trying to say that they helped me He helped me do everything, didn't they? You know, it's like they were trying to.
I did like when
Go ahead.
SJ was trying to teach him with the various condiments and whatever. The one line, when you're done, put the players back in the spice rack. I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I could see how he'd be a little insulted by that scene. And I know there is that one moment where she kind of whips him into shape on the field and then goes and dresses down the coach. And yes, it makes for good cinema, but I could see how it would rankle the people who are actually involved. Probably the coach too. He probably was. Yeah.
He was given heavy Forrest Gump vibes in this particular part of like,
yeah,
it's like, I was taking him back to the car because he was not being very polite, and I'm like,
I mean, it really was giving Forrest Gump vibes for me. Like that's why I was like, is he supposed to be special needs? And after I saw the movie, I saw an interview with Michael Orr, and I'm like, okay, he don't sound nothing like the way that boy portrayed him in the movie. Like that's why I thought the character was special needs. Like this was some goddamn, what's it called? What's that movie with the boy that could play football, but he was not Rudy. God, what's it called? God, fuck it, I don't remember. Either way.
Oh, was that Brian's song?
What?
Was that Brian's song?
No. Radio with Cuba Gooding Jr. Okay, that was
yeah.
I was really wondering, like, what is going on? Why they got him sounding like that? And now I'm like, okay, it was the direction.
They don't really play him the way that he is portrayed. I think they make it pretty clear that it's more of, I guess you could say, a social awkwardness than anything, or a feeling that these people, he doesn't really know how to relate to what these people want of him. Like when they show later on that, when the one teacher warms to him by realizing that if she works with him, he's actually pretty good. The one teacher's just an ass, but so I don't really feel like they portray him as an idiot, but they definitely portray him as you could make that mistake easily. And yeah, what little I've seen of Orr, I've been like, this is a weird choice.
Yeah, it made no sense to me. It was just strange.
Yeah. I mean, from a purely storytelling perspective, it makes for a more compelling story, I guess. But yeah, anytime you have based on a true story slapped all over the promotional materials, you're going to open yourself up to criticism when it comes out that you changed a lot.
Oh yeah. So basically, here's the gist of the plot, and I'm going to run it down fairly straightforward. Basically, they pretty much end up adopting him down the line, and they steer him towards the college that they think he will be best at, not forsaking any of his wants or dislikes, and they hire a tutor. In fact, all of his teachers, at least in this movie, seem to pay special attention to him, like he is a special needs person, and to walk him through and try to get his grades up so that he can continue to play football. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one thing I was curious about, and I don't know if anyone else knows this particular thing. I don't believe they ever actually said the word in the movie, but the impression I got, the strong impression I got from the way the teachers finally ended up giving him some success, was that he was being portrayed as dyslexic. Am I reading that right? And does anyone know if that's the actual case? Because that was, like I said, that was the impression I got. But I don't think they ever actually used that term in the film, though.
No, and a lot of it basically, because a lot of it they kind of portrayed it as he's not as dumb as he seems but he just can't understand how they're portraying it to him. Yeah, like I said, I know that he was upset because it made him look a lot dumber than he is, which the man himself did not like a lot of that, which I can understand. Because there were a lot of scenes where he was very Forrest Gumpish.
Yeah.
I really grew to dislike the movie hit halfway through. I'm like, they really got him out here looking like the village fucking idiot.
Well, Dustin, did you want to give us a rundown of your first impressions? And welcome to the show.
Hey, sorry we were a little late today. This movie was very, very long. Good Lord. That's a 2, right? Not a 3 in the hour count. Like, because it, I don't know. It seemed like it was on all night and day.
2 hours and 9 minutes per IMDb. Sounds about.
Oh. Well, I did have a problem playing it and had to switch sources, so maybe that's why. But you know, I have a bit of a story with this. So my mom, when this movie came out, my mom really, really, really wanted to see it. To the point where Mom never asks for presents or gifts or anything. Mom asked for the DVD of this, like, directly by name. The only other movie she's done that with is The Polar Express. And Gone with the Wind, I guess, but that was more of a, figure it out kind of thing. And I had never actually seen it until now, because it's like she wanted to watch it with me, and I feel like I maybe should have done that, because it's not. I mean, if you get past the real story aspect of this, which we checked out an article that you guys sent me about what were the discrepancies and stuff, and I fully understand. I mean, I would have been annoyed if it was like, he doesn't know how this works, and it's like, but I do. Like I would have been annoyed by that. But I mean, I was sort of led to believe that, obviously the real story is different, and they did like cheat him on the profits from the movie. But the way people told me like the real story differed, it sounded like these people who took him in like abused him too. And I mean, in a different way, yes, but not
used him would be more the proper term.
They used him.
Okay, that is the term I was looking for. It was just kind of like
they took advantage of him.
I was looking up the additional residuals, and the Tuohys have made around $1 million off The Blind Side totally. And
each or
together, I believe, or got 14,000 as per that you had said so far. And that was because that one person felt guilty about it not going to them.
Well, let's not forget that every time they do a speech, because she also has built a career.
Oh yeah, and she continues to make residuals off.
Yeah,
of
she's built a career as a motivational speaker, all off the back of this kid. He ain't a kid no more, but all off the back of Michael Orr. And they also had access to his NFL earnings. Let's not forget that too.
Yeah,
I was concerned about that too, because that article didn't really mention it, but it logically followed that like conservatorship. I mean, I think a lot of people learned how that works with the Britney Spears story from last year or whenever it was. And so when I found out conservatorship, it's like, oh, okay. And I mean, my thoughts on it were like the excuse they gave in the article was that it was the only way to get around some of the NFL's rules, which I think may have been true, but still not great. Like they should have when he was established, they should have like cut that off or like not interfered.
They should
But
have
that was-
returned the money to him naturally.
They should have,
after a
but
certain
it seems like
time.
they'll at least, hopefully, they at least, concede the law in the lawsuit and give him what he deserves.
Well, he is out of the conservatorship now because,
Okay.
well, they got caught. So they were like, oh, okay. They got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. So he's out of it now, but that lawsuit is still pending because he's going after them for money at this point because, he's claiming that something was misappropriated and shit. So, oops. Can't wait to see that trial go forward.
And all the fun stuff comes out.
Oh, Discovery is going to be an interesting beast when that happens. Ooh, I can't wait for Discovery.
Or at least Dateline NBC or something like that, Ugh.
No, Discovery in the case of like, as they start issuing subpoenas and stuff for records and everything, discovering what they did. Where,
True.
How dirty were they, is the question. And that is where I'm going to be like, yeah, lying.
As I had been kind of led to think kind of more to it. So I listened to that Chapo Trap House podcast, and they kind of like crack jokes about like different current event things like all the time. And I think they mentioned this once when it kind of broke out that that lawsuit was happening and the movie had all these problems. And I remember one guy they were kind of joking about it amongst themselves. And it's like, I mean, this couple was basically this couple basically kidnapped him and made him work for them. And it was like, geez. So I was details like that. I mean, you could, I think you could put it that way.
I mean, honestly, Black Twitter was in just up in arms because a lot of us said for years, a lot of Black people I know personally were like, something about the story don't make me feel good. And when the news broke of how much they fucking used him, we were all like, I knew it.
Well, I mean,
we fucking knew it
because we kind of moved past where he got. Now I admit that scene when they focused on the little kid negotiating with the coaches.
Such bullshit.
I admit that was funny though. I did like that. I thought it was hilarious. But as far as like when he went in and they had the NAACP, I think it was NAACP. That
NCAA.
All right, so yeah.
What the hell is it, baby?
Sorry, NCAA, and I mean, they're basically taking him forward and telling him basically, look, your family is using you. And think about it. They want you to go into this their old college. They've been moving you towards this. They've gotten you to sign a conservatorship. They want to do all of this, and we don't want all of these rich white people to think they can just adopt a sports star of their own and use it. And I thought to myself, that is an interesting message to have thrown in that movie.
Now we know. Because it's funny is that at the time, people were telling him that, but he didn't want to believe it because he thought they genuinely cared for him. Well, now we know they didn't.
Well, we don't know entirely, but yeah.
I have a hard time wrapping my head around.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to believe it wasn't like a malicious plan. So I have this belief that sometimes people do like really messed up shit kind of by mistake. Like you do something and then you look at it from outside of the different angle and suddenly it's like, holy shit, you're history's greatest monster.
Yeah, but
like,
it's not like a deliberate act. It was a very deliberate act that they and their children all got residuals from that fucking movie, but he was deliberately left out. Like they knew he was left out.
Children residuals thing. I mean, yeah, you can't.
Like because they were negotiating contracts on his behalf. They knew what they were doing. This isn't like, oh, they didn't mean to. Oh, yes, the fuck they did.
I mean, if they really considered him part of the family, they would have included him in the residuals.
Exactly.
With the other two children.
But instead, they kept it all for themselves.
Admittedly. But, and them doubling down on things also kind of makes it.
I mean, yeah, that's suspicious for sure. It's just like I don't know. That seems like a real like mastermind kind of plan that
Rich people don't become rich for no reason. They had to do some sneaky shit over their lives to become that rich. Come the fuck on.
Well, they were born with it.
Yeah, that too. Shit.
Well, no, I mean in this case,
that ties into one of my other beliefs that most rich people, like just are given money, and if they had to survive on their own in any way, they would be like eaten, like cannibalized.
well, my understanding was that
they are not. They're kind of like it's kind of like normal people are like aurochs, and rich people are like farm cows. Like they can't take care of themselves in the wild. That's my.
I don't know enough about the story to know where the Tweez came from originally financially. I know Sean was a basketball star, and he's a multiple franchise owner of very successful restaurants. So that's where most of the money came from, probably much of it. But
it doesn't sound like something you really set up by yourself, you know?
Right.
The question is, we never went into how he got all those franchises under him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chances are they already had some money. I mean, you go to Ole Miss, you probably have at least a little bit. And yeah.
I mean, if you want
to, it felt like a prestigious school because, like, the movie kept saying that, but I was like, it's set in the South, so is it actually a good school?
It's a very well-known school, and it is considered pretty,
very white. It's very white.
Yeah.
And very big into the frats and sorority scene. Ugh.
God, that kind of tracks. I was going to steal a joke from The Simpsons and be like, "Well, it's a university in the South. What is it? A barn?"
Hey, I went to a university in the South.
I'd say it would be closer to. No, I'm not gonna say it.
To be fair, the joke. To be fair, the barn in the joke I stole that from was Yale.
But I mean, if you think about a character, which I won't mention the name of, a particular real estate investor got $1 million investment from his father to become a self-made man.
Self-made my ass.
So, you know, it just shows you.
Right.
He's self-made and I'm white.
So I'm going to bring us back. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just making a joke that it's like if you just put it like in the bank or whatever, like it would have been more productive than the things that person tried to do with it. But anyway,
so
specific. Anyway, I mean, as a movie, like sad realities, cruel realities aside, I actually liked the movie. I thought it was fine. There were a few moments where I was kind of like, yeah, it feels like there's some things that it maybe needed to explore a little bit more, but it kind of like got icked out by like some of like the racial politics, I think. Like here and there, because it seemed like the movie had like a
unfortunately, they made this movie more
uncomfortable perspective. Let's put it that way. It was like, you know, are you actually
family perspective there?
But also being kind of like, I mean, it was only really aware of, you know, did you just like take this kid? Like, I was only really aware of that at the end. I don't really know how to quite put it to words. It was just kind of like there was like a ambient uncomfortableness in a lot of those things, especially like the housing project stuff. It's like I grew up near those. They aren't. Well, the one I grew up near wasn't like that.
Well,
depends on where you at. Shit.
Oh, I am willing to admit I can be wrong. It was just kind of like, it seems like you're more trying to. It's like you knew this was more for like a white audience, and you were trying to spook the audience a little bit.
This is
as ghetto as possible.
Wait. This is in Memphis, right?
Yes.
Oh God, yeah. Memphis
been-
is
Oh
I
yeah,
have
they
been
are
to-
that ghetto.
I have been to Memphis, and yes, it is easily believable
yeah.
that there are both of these worlds, the ghetto projects and the super palatial homes.
I mean, you see that in Chicago.
Yeah.
And if you really want to go by Orr's own book, and this is the one that he wrote, he did do some work for the crack dealers there as muscle, and he was offered like a full-time gig as basically the muscle man there, which he did get away from, which I'm glad he did, because that's a horrible thing to have to do.
Be the street life, yeah, because he'd be dead by the time he's 25.
But as somebody who I could say, thank goodness I've never lived there, but I have been in plenty of those type of areas as part of my work, and it depends. But there's a society within a society there, and like I say, some good people who live everywhere, and I guess if you like any society, there's your own police system and all that, because you can't really trust the police outside.
Don't look at me. I went to private school. Shit.
I was going to say,
I grew up in the suburbs. Don't look at me like that. I didn't even know what food stamps looked like until I was a cashier at a Walmart in college. And I said to the woman, "Why are you giving this monopoly money? This is fake money." And they were like, "Kim, that's food stamps." I said, "This is what food stamps are? I think they were stamps."
If you remember, well, yeah, that was back when they were actually stamps,
Yeah, like they're like with this like
now.
I was like, "The fuck is this?"
I mean, nowadays it's on a credit card like thing, and people can just sell their cards to people that have the money, and then claim it as lost, and that kind of thing.
Or
Actually, you really can't
I've
do
seen
that.
that.
how your groceries get into cash.
I mean, like, people with mental health issues, let's just say, think you can do that, and that you can use food stamps for like drugs and alcohol, but you absolutely cannot. Like, you can't sell your card. Like,
I worked at the federal building,
not
and
fucking
the managers that I had there were selling their food stamps to each other.
If you try selling your SNAP card, you get caught pretty quick.
The way that you do it is you go in. I hate to say this because it really proves some talking points that I don't like to prove anything of, but yes, you can, not in the way you think.
Yeah.
The way it is they go in, they buy you X amount worth of groceries.
Yep.
You give them less cash than what the groceries are worth. So let's say you go in, you buy like $40 worth of groceries, they give you a 20.
Yeah.
So you get a big discount, and they got cash, which they can then go use on anything they don't.
My mom was telling me about how every time she went to Food Lion, there would be people standing outside the Food Lion offering to buy her groceries for her if she gives them cash. And she's like, how you gonna buy me my groceries? I give you cash. And they're like, well, I got an EBT card. She's like, if you get the fuck out of my face.
So yeah, you can indeed sell your food stamps, but not in the way
you think. You have to do it in a more sneaky way.
Yeah.
Like, you're still spending the food stamp money, but they're gonna give you cash in return for you buying their groceries on your EBT. And I was like, but it's, again, I mean, like, when I see movies like this about super, like, it's like really dangerous hood, I'm like, I have no personal experience with this shit, except for the couple times my ass got lost in Richmond and I ended up in the fucking hood.
Yeah.
Most of those times during the day.
Oh no, one was in the evening.
Yeah.
I was sweating
Well,
bullets
no,
too.
you don't want to be in any of those places after.
Oh, we
dark.
were in jumping
I know.
I was like, and I was the only black person in the car too. I was like, what the fuck? And Joe was like, let's stop over and ask them for directions. I said, if you stop this car, I'm jumping out and saying these white folks kidnapped me. Help.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, I know you can do that with food snaps. It's just food snaps with snaps. With the snap card. Look what you've got me doing now. I mean, I know you can do that because but like I don't think it's like a turbo huge problem the way people always say it is, because when you do that, you very, very quickly just run out of food. And since you have no money really anyway, aside from like the pens you were given to do it, you learn not to do that pretty fast.
It also depends on how badly addicted to stuff you are.
Yeah, and it depends on how much money you already got on your EBT card. If you already bought what you need with by buying ramen and the little Knorr's like Alfredo packets that cost like 50 cents, then you Gucci. You just go ahead and spend the rest of it for the month and sell what's left.
I remember when I was going to VCU, there was time that I was like basically getting food for about $5 a week almost, because I was just eating like ramen packets and stuff. Well, I mean, I was putting the water in it, but
it's really even food.
You can't subsist on that indefinitely though. But yeah,
I feel like you get more nutrition from a block of wood. Like, no kidding.
Right.
But when your choice is that or nothing, you usually choose that. I then realized that you can buy frozen vegetables really cheap. Back in those days, you could buy a big old bag of frozen veggies for like $1.
Babe, you still can, depending on where you go.
And, I could make myself that and get some like beef broth and something there and make myself a really nice meal with some with stuff like that. I mean, if you really look at it, yeah, you can theoretically eat healthy on a low budget diet. You just gotta think around corners.
when I first got on Snap, I think I got the max at the time, which was like 187, and like every cent of it went before the end of the month. Like, even if you were super careful with like what you bought, if you only ate like the most affordable things you could find, like, like even then, like it was extremely, extremely hard to even have it last until like the next deposit. And now it got upped a few times over the years. So my SNAP number is like 291. So I get around 300 in like food money every month. And it always, 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 without exception, runs out maybe 20 days into the month. So like it's food for one person that is not just trash is about $350, $400 a month. So if people are actually doing that in greater numbers, let them, and they'll learn. One of my kind of crazier opinions that I never really talk about is I think that everyone should only have food stamps. Everyone should get a strict budget. You can only buy food with food stamps, but everybody gets, a $500 a month like food stamp thing. And so much like crap would just disappear from the grocery stores.
What in the rush are you talking about?
Well, when you're limited that much, like you quickly realize it's like, oh, I can't get this $10 thing of milk. That's ridiculous, or oh, I can't, just buy all this junk food. Or, I saw some kids buy $100 worth of Mountain Dew with their SNAP card once. And, I told them, like, if you really had to depend on that, you have to depend on that food, right? And I gave them, like, me and my friend they basically tried to ask me and my friend for a ride home because they were having trouble carrying it all. And I gave them, like, the cruelest lashing that I really could. Like, they looked like hurt inside, which, good, because it's like, it'll cuts down when you have no resources. You don't do wasteful spending. And if you had a strict limit on what you were able to pick up, then that problem should solve itself. And if you don't learn, then you suffer. So, what?
Unfortunately, we're built on a society that is supposed to earn everything as we go along. And honestly, there are a lot of people who do have disabilities, but there are people who don't have disabilities and still get government money. But that's not the issue here at hand. Let's get back to the movie. So
No, where were we?
If you think we live in a real meritocracy, you have a round rock where your brain should be. Let's just leave it at that. But anyway, the movie. I did like the movie. It was fun. A few parts of it were kind of like, look how bad this part of town is. And they seemed a little pushed. I think the one that stuck out to me the most was, it's like, man, look at, I think it was the Christmas card, right? It's like, wow, it's like you're there with King Kong. And I was like, ooh. That bothered me. But for the most part,
when the guy called and said, "You do realize that there was a boy of color in your Christmas card?"
Yeah, I was like,
that kind of stuck.
It was just kind of like, eh.
Oh, I guarantee you there are plenty of people like that in that area.
Oh, let's go.
Shoot, when I grew up, you'd see the hard N word used. Hey, you got a in your Christmas card. You'd have heard that a lot. When
well, I'm sure there's people that probably looked at our wedding pictures of your mom's Facebook was like, "Who that color girl?" My daughter-in-law.
Well,
I am
before.
By the way.
Okay. So the last.
We were talking about the old Miss.
So he spent the night.
Yeah.
Well, I know that he spent. I was going back to when he spent the night, the first night, and when they woke up the next morning, he had folded everything that she laid down for him on the couch, and he was not in sight. And he was starting to leave, and she was like, "You're going to make me walk this whole way?" Okay. So they meet, and she was like, "Hey, you know what? Do you have anywhere to be this Thanksgiving? Why don't you come back and have Thanksgiving dinner with us?" So she makes up Thanksgiving, because evidently that's what day it was. And he goes and sits at the table while everyone else goes and sits at the TV watching some game. So she makes the decision to turn off the TV and make everyone go to the dinner table. And I thought that was kind of neat, even though knowing the whole story behind it, I still think that was kind of a cool move, that and they said grace and everything, and then of course there was the period of moments in this movie where all the teachers got together and noticed that he actually did and was able to write, but he was not really doing the greatest in any of the classes. So I think the teachers kind of got together and ended up kind of almost like doing their one-on-one tutor with him before he even got a tutor. Like they were walking with him and talking with him about each of the subjects. And there was the one male teacher that really was giving him a hard time. In fact, he gave him a D at one point in time, and he almost didn't make him pass, but he had to come up with some report like before the end of the quarter or whatnot. What did y'all think about that Charge of the Light Brigade moment?
It was good.
Where Tim McGraw came over with the explaining him the meaning behind the charge of the light brigade.
This is the part where they've brought in the tutor, who Miss Sue, played by Kathy Bates, and she's trying to. He has to give a report on a book from the list, obviously, and she tries to steer him toward Great Expectations, which I got to admit might have been a little too on the nose, maybe.
You're Pip.
And but then, she mentions the Charge of the Light Brigade, and Sean starts quoting it. He's all into it. Apparently, that was like his favorite story or some such thing. And the way he presents it, it really was a nice. Like, it led to the way they end up having the teacher reading Orr's paper. And I don't know how much of this was made up and how much was legit. I mean, I have no idea. I wonder if Orr weighs in on that in his book. I haven't heard any comments on that, but it's a very interesting take on the story that his paper ends up being. And you can see the teacher kind of begrudgingly admitting that it was a good take on it, but he does. But yeah, it was an interesting little bit.
And Kathy Bates was an interesting character too to bring in on the whole thing. I mean, the first thing right off the bat she said is like, "I just got one thing before you take me on. I'm a Democrat," So
I got to admit, though, I got to admit, I love Kathy Bates as an actress. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's kind of wasted in this role. I've never really felt like Kathy Bates. I don't know. I kind of expected more.
I still see her in Waterboy saying, "What are you playing that foosball?" Bobby Boucher.
That would be a football movie.
I kind of see her in that role.
That's
But
she was in Misery, right?
Yes,
yeah, she was also in Misery.
Okay. So I was like, what the hell other movies are you talking about? And then it's like, am I remembering the right person?
Well, she was in the Adam Sandler's mother, or the character that he played.
She also made such an
You've
impression.
never seen The Waterboy?
No.
She made such an impression on Stephen King in Misery that he.
I think I missed
that. I was going to say she made such an impression on Stephen King by her performance in Misery that he wrote Dolores Claiborne pretty much with her in mind. And of course, she ended up doing the role in the film too. But yeah, she's been in a few things over the years, definitely.
I mean, I thought she was fine in the role. She just didn't have a whole lot to really do.
Right.
Like, all she had to do was really kind of like just sit at the table and like pose for the silent montage with the music over it.
I do like that whole thing that she was talking about Tennessee. They got all those medical cadavers there at the base.
The body parts under the football field. And when the NCAA was like asking him, "Did anyone influence you?" I was like, that scene. That was very brazen. Like that was maybe a breach of ethics. Like,
yeah.
I was kind of like, okay, man, he can't comprehend you're messing with him. Like, just that one felt. I mean, this is gonna make people mad because there was like dirtier stuff that obviously happened, but that felt the dirtiest, like, to me, with somebody like misrepresenting something to him.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Well, she was playing off of his obvious gentle nature and not really, he obviously wasn't all that into that kind of stuff. And she just kept digging and digging. He was clearly uncomfortable. She kept digging and digging.
It felt the most manipulative, like, as events are portrayed. And as things were
And
portrayed in the
Michael
film
is
were the
still
most
at a very naive stage, so he was very much believing a lot of people that were in his life at this moment because he put his trust in them. You know,
Now,
a very trusted.
in this case, it may not have been necessarily anything with a truly ulterior motive, because after all, people who, and that's one of the things where I wonder about how much, even if the Tuohys had specifically conditioned Michael Orr to want to do Ole Miss, they may not have really necessarily, or at least not thought that they had an ulterior motive. They may not thought they had an agenda, but when people get as into school rivalries as these people clearly did, I could see the same thing if it had taken place here in Virginia and it was like Tech versus UVA. I could see that playing out without any ulterior motive at all. That's just how insanely partisan people are when it comes to their school. You know what I mean?
When I first came on, that's exactly what I was trying to say, and I don't think I did a very good job, but you really nailed it there. So completely agree.
To me, I don't think that the school part was about them getting money. I think the school part was about, this is the school that our family goes to. Don't disgrace our family by not going to our school. Which is how a lot of those people are.
And they may have genuinely hated Tennessee just that much.
I mean, it's Tennessee. Like, the only good thing on Tennessee is the action.
We do have to talk about the first game that he is that he ends up being part of, because that team was so redneck and so against him. In fact, there was that redneck father of the not quarterback, the linebacker that he was up against, and he made some very derogatory comments about him before they even started playing. And
that was kind of fun, because it was like, the way these movies work, you can tell that dude is going to get eaten alive. And when it finally happened, it felt good.
Yeah, I will say I am glad that we need to definitely skip over that part where he's being taught how to play football, because I really think that that's an insulting part in the movie to him and insulting overall. I'd say the fact that it exists, acknowledge it, and let's move past it.
Yeah, he specifically mentions that bothered him like the most about the movie. He was like, "Hey, what the?" And I think I led with that. I mean, that's completely understandable, and that would piss me off too.
And as far as the scene we were just talking about, like y'all said earlier, that kind of was like a Forrest Gump moment where it was like, just I was taking him to his car because I felt like he just needed to go home. I could see that argument.
No, he was actually taking him to the bus.
Yeah.
What were you doing? I was trying to put him back on the bus. It was time for him to go home.
Right. I mean, I will admit that definitely does feel like a Forrest Gump moment, but it also does, just if you take everything else out of it and just, that is a funny line. It was kind of an amusing part in the film.
I think
yeah. What's up?
Huh? Oh no, I was agreeing with you.
That was my favorite line of the film too. For me.
But yeah, I can see how it does have sort of a Forrest Gumpish vibe to it. And incidentally, Forrest Gump is a movie that doesn't feel as wholesome now as it did when it came out. But, now, of course, I've read the book that Forrest Gump was based off of, and that just makes it even weirder because
you couldn't end the movie that way. It would have been way too depressing.
No, they couldn't have. That was, but. Anyway,
yeah, it's sort of my joke about like the alligators. Like I remembered something, and this scene is kind of the most "we are in the South" like sort of moment in the movie. And I don't know who originally wrote this, but like one time I heard like a riff on that like Dixie song or whatever. It's like, way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators, run away, run away, run away. And I was just thinking of that and laughing.
I'm not sure that's my version. Anyway.
Rattlesnakes and alligators sounds
all right. But yeah, I believe this game
ultimately,
I believe this game is the one that puts Orr on the radar, right? We start getting all the visits from coaches now at this point, and a lot of the coaches actually play themselves.
Well, and SJ actually made videotape of him and actually put on that disc or the Terminator, and then sent it to all the different coaches. And I liked how there was a montage of coaches.
So good.
Yeah. One of the coaches' names will sound very familiar to students of current politics, and I felt a little bit of a kind of a little cringe moment when I heard that name. But
Tuberville?
Yeah.
And I was like, is that like the
what's that?
I can't say the word that immediately came mind, but the buffoon that Chapo did like an episode on him where they were just like making fun of like stupid stuff he's done.
Right.
So I wasn't sure if that was actually that guy, but well, I mean Tuberville, like that's a fairly unique name, one would think. So
I don't think that was one of the coaches who played himself, but I didn't look to see.
No, who would even be able to tell?
And I don't think that they showed. I don't think that they showed too many actual football.
No, he did play himself. Yeah, Nick. There are several that do. I think most of these were coaches. Lou Holtz, Phil Fulmer, maybe Nick Saban. I'm not sure how many of these are, honestly, but
I do agree with you, Brandon. SJ doing the negotiations with the coaches, those parts were fun, especially when it came to what they could provide for him, since he's the brother.
Exactly.
But
that was a TV show called Smart Guy that kind of did that when the kid was being given like school offers. It's like, his dad was sort of angling for stuff too. So it reminded me of that. Like what I liked the most about just kind of there's sort of a pair of montages where the coaches are just seeing the tapes and like, oh my god, and like making booking their flights like in the same moment. Like when they actually do the drills and like he just nails that guy like right over. My favorite part was where the guy's eyes just kind of go wide and he's like,
I just realized something. I just realized how I can describe SJ in this movie. I guess or J-Head's performance. It's like Kieran Culkin was playing the character from Remember the Titans, but was told by the director to act like he was a squirrel who drank a bunch of coffee. That, I think, is a good description of that portrayal.
I agree. I was going to argue, but then I was like, no, you got it.
But did we actually see any other games portrayed in this movie? Like after that momentum of coaches?
We need a
montage?
montage.
Okay. So
that was another
montage.
complaint.
movie made of montages. Go ahead.
That was another complaint that he had was that he felt like a lot of the most interesting story was actually his climb to the NFL, which was much more football based. But yeah,
right. But that would have fallen after this because this is basically like him getting into the high school program and getting ready for the college program. And yeah, they don't really go beyond essentially that.
Yeah, I mean, they do have somewhat of an epilogue where they bring that, where they show that as kind of the payoff for all the stuff that got him here. I can see how if that was like more of an accomplishment to you, you would want to see that though. But the movie is pretty long, so I don't know how much more they could have really incorporated telling the story from the frame shift that they used.
And
that makes sense, but
nope. Which brings us fast forward to the NCAA.
I was just going to make one more comment on that real quick. This is another reason why it would be interesting to actually read Lewis's book, because the book is actually called The Blind Side: The Evolution of a Game. And again, this is only part of it. So my guess would be that if you were to read the book, you would get much more into the game and the business of the game. And this whole story, including and perhaps particularly the Tilley's involvement, my guess would be, and if anyone has read this who wants to correct me, that the movie probably played that aspect up dramatically from what was actually in the book. And my guess would be, if I were to read the story, I'd probably read a lot more about his actual part in the game. In which case would make it an even more legitimate criticism on his part, if that is the case. But I do need to read. I need to read more Michael Lewis. All I've read was The Big Short. It's been on my radar. I just haven't, But now I really want to check this one out and read it.
Okay.
All right.
So fast forward to the moment where I do believe it's Mrs. Toohey who gets a call about seeing with Michael the NCCA lady, where she is questioning the motives behind him picking Old Miss. And she upsets him a lot with what she brings to the table, mainly because he realizes that the wool is being pulled over his eyes, and now the questions brings to light. Maybe they were, especially the Tuohys, were trying to convince him to go to the school without thinking of his feelings. You know what I mean? So what do y'all think about that? Dustin, what did you think about that?
Well, in light of the real story, it's like, I mean, they were bright, but at the same time, it's like you could tell that his character had never considered that before, and it would mess you up, like it really would. And I thought they portrayed that like very well, like him just kind of going back to like what he knew before, and trying to find his mom, and it didn't really work. But it's something that needs to be addressed if you want the story to have some. The story can't just be all like upside, like there has to be like a low points. Like I could almost kind of see like in the script, it's like, okay, now for the third act, like drop, and it's like, okay, fine. But it is still like a valid concern, and maybe they should have. Well, I suppose we didn't really know at the time that the film came out exactly.
Well, obviously, since there are problems still, and obviously, since there are problems still going outside of this movie, even to this day, that
well, I mean,
whole other
they wouldn't have known about the royalties thing like while they were making it, like per se. I mean, I feel like if he knew that he had been cut out of the profits for it, that maybe he would have said something at the time, or I don't know. That is kind of a dick thing to say of me, I guess. But I don't know. It feels like the thing with the royalties wouldn't necessarily have been discovered, during the writing of the movie. It's especially considering like how much later that story broke compared to when the movie came out. Like it felt like something that would need time to happen. Do you get what I'm saying?
Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer.
Do what?
Or
what does that
was
matter?
this movie produced by Jerry Bruckheimer?
I don't believe Bruckheimer had anything to do with it. No.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but
okay.
I'll double
I
check.
wasn't sure. It would matter if this was a movie that was not really, or a story that wasn't really very, should I say, researched before they made it. They just took the book as fact and ran with it. And then Hollywoodized the rest of it as they went along. So
I mean, stories are always going to be
I think with everything that's still going on to this day, I feel like anything that happens after this NCAA lady probably didn't happen because what happened in the movie is Sandra Bullock's character, well, Mrs. Toohey, she actually kind of does an about face and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I guess we didn't realize we were steamrolling you along to go to this old miss, but we didn't think about your feelings.
They
kind of moment.
They actually question themselves a little bit, and I feel like that probably didn't happen. At the very least, it probably didn't happen in the way it's shown in this.
Part is the most fantasy of the story.
It's possible. It's possible that they did have a realization late in the game that they had done that. It may have been unconscious, and then when they realized it, but again, I don't think this particular scene where she sits him down and they have a chat about it, that was almost certainly Hollywoodized, and how much of that was based on reality. I will say though that one thing about the whole idea, just extrapolating from it, again, the particulars may or may not have been exact, but this whole idea of people, parents or parental figures having an outsized influence in their charges' decisions, whether or not they mean to, that is definitely a truth of the human condition, one might say. And you do have a lot of
parents is like.
What's that?
That's what having parents is like.
Right. And especially if you have someone as hard charging as Lee and Toohey is shown as being here, anyone that just barrels ahead at that speed, they are probably not going to be thinking too long and hard about whether the person involved is really on board with them. You know what I mean?
It was pretty clear to me they were that kind of character. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely clear to me that Mrs. Toohey wore the pants in the family. That's
right.
Karen
but,
always does.
That thing, it was I think that was the DMV, right? It's like, I could sit here and and complain all day, and the lady's like, I bet you could. Or whatever she said. I thought that was
I'll make you eat all the more.
I agreed with that. I agreed. She seemed like the type for sure.
You're talking about when she
But,
went to the look for his records and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I was reminded of one of my favorite single panel comic strips that I've ever seen. I do believe it was Non Sequitur by Wiley. I always loved that one. And it's a DMV station, and there's this guy standing in front of a literal ring of fire, like a hoop of fire. And he's staring at it, and the lady behind the counter is like, "Oh, mostly because we can." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." But this kind of reminded me of that a little.
I think another line I liked from this movie was from SJ when he was talking to him about his shirts that he wears. You look like a giant bumblebee. For some reason, I kind of chuckled at that moment, even though I know, those were the shirts that he wore. But
Yep.
Other than that,
a lot of times I watch movies, and at that point, I actually said out loud, "He's kind of right, man." Like,
so now we're kind of nearing the end of the movie, and I do believe that the real Michael Orr actually came about face in the end of the movie to accept some kind of an award or whatnot. Because I'm not sure exactly. I'm not remembering exactly what happens after the little talk that she had with him, except for him actually sitting down with the NCAA lady and saying, "Well, you didn't ask me why what I thought about why I should be going to Ole Miss." And she was like, "Okay, go ahead, tell me." And he was like, "Well, this is the place that my family that I love and I think that loves and supports me all went to, and I want to go to where my family it went. That type of thing, wasn't it?"
Yeah, it was a nice event, and that's kind of what you need for
and
the movie to have like I almost want to say sappy payoff, even though I think that's, I don't know, that feels like a loaded term to me to say something is sappy because that means it sucks. Like, this didn't necessarily suck. It was just kind of a little much. But I mean, I think that that line was pretty good, and it tied.
It's a conventional payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's when we go into, like, they're dropping him off on campus, just telling him, here's what to do, here's the map, your tutor is moving in. And I was like, oh, so you did want him to go there so you could get, like, some fancy place by campus. All right, lady. So I see your long game. I bet that frightening cemetery speech was worth it, eh? The truth.
then, of course, I believe we have the real Michael Orr showing up in some real footage where he's accepting some award of some sort, and we pretty much have the end of the movie, I believe.
Yeah, he's accepting his NFL draft.
Yeah, and we see pictures of all the main cast shown over the end, and again, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's always interesting when you see quote unquote based on a true story films, and then you see the images of the people at the end, and sometimes it's kind of jarring. And again, I remember my first impression going, wait a minute, that dude don't look anything like the guy that played Michael Orr. wait a minute, that dude don't look anything like Sean Tilley. Wait a minute, Leanne Tilley was short. Like Sandra Bullock's not exactly. I've seen a picture of them together, and she's almost a head taller. And so it was just kind of funny to see that. And you're like, well, they had some interesting casting choices here.
Well, I mean, I did kind of notice that too. For me, it was more so like they look like they get along, and then they look kind of like happy memories. So, I don't know. To me, it made it seem like maybe something kind of harder to fake, or I'm not exactly sure how I would really put it. I mean, because I had a pretty bad time growing up, and I didn't even, in the grand scheme of things, I didn't really have things all that bad. It was just the bad stuff stands out so much more. And over the last year or so, I mean, I've been doing a lot of therapy, and I've been really thinking back on like all these different moments, and like what my relationship with my mom in particular was really like. And you look back and you remember like all this awful stuff, but you also remember like good things, and you're like, why am I so like upset? So it's I haven't really talked about it out loud before, just kind of trying to like process and reconcile like memories of flawed caregivers. And it sort of, that montage thing kind of made me think of that, because I was seeing those photos as I was reading the article about like what really happened. So it was, I don't know, it was making me really introspective. So I think it's good that they showed those. Well, it just kind of got me thinking about it. So, I mean, it was a good ending to the movie, and like Jake said, that's a typical thing they do in these true stories. It was just that maybe by accident it helped this movie a bit more, like because of what came out afterward. And it's really makes you think. My cop out of trying to get out of the weeds on that one.
Okay, well, at the end of everything that we have here, why don't we go into production? So let's start with you, Brandon. What did you think about production?
I mean, overall, it did what it needed to do. Football scenes looked accurate, and a lot of the stuff, like I say, a lot of the set dressing was good. I mean, they made the projects look definitely very threatening, as I guess they were trying to do. Yeah, so I guess it worked well, reflecting everything it was supposed to do.
I mean, it's a normal mainstream movie. It looked like a normal mainstream movie. I don't even know if there were really effects beyond that one car crash. So I mean, the production, like, it's fine. Like, everything looks the way it should. I don't know if there's necessarily all that much to comment on production wise. I mean, it's fine. Like, I can't point out any real flaws. Well, even the aggressive depiction of that part of town is apparently much more accurate than I would have thought. So, yeah, production's fine.
Okay. What about you, Jake? What did you think about the production?
It was pretty solid. I mean, again, it's a good-looking movie. I don't really see any significant issues there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm kind of the same, because I didn't really see much flaws as far as setting goes. It looked like there were some sports being played. it definitely was not like according to what the original story was. But I mean, it looked good for what it was, and I guess they pulled off what they wanted and needed to do at the time. If anything, it kind of helped everything that really did happen come out of the woodworks. And even though it's still taking its toll and time in the public eye, I'm sure in light of the facts, everything will be brought to light, and maybe using this movie as context and background, maybe the trueness of the story behind it will come out and to light even better. But that being said, let's go into music. So, what did y'all think about the music? If anything, it seemed like it was more that it had a score per se than a soundtrack, really. The score was put out by Carter Burwell, which I believe he was the composer behind 3 billboards outside Ebbing.
Yeah. He's scored pretty much everything for Martin McDonagh and the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
And the Banshees of Inisherin.
Also Martin McDonagh.
And he's done many, many more.
He's got some great scores out there, and his music here is excellent.
I mean, it didn't really stick out too much to me. I remember there were a couple scenes where I felt that it was maybe a little like over dramatic, in that kind of stereotypical movie way, where it's like feel sad and it plays like the sweeping sad music, and it's like that was my only real time I noticed the music. Personally.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, the music was average. Actually, I didn't consider it any better or worse than the music for "We Are the Titans." To tell you the truth,
You mean Remember the Titans?
Whatever.
Why don't you know whatever that shit? That will be good.
Football movie.
Yeah, the soundtrack to that was even good. Okay, so there was an actual soundtrack, evidently, for this movie. So there was an Unsquare Dance, which was performed by David Brubeck Quartet, cello song performed by the Books. Eric Apologizes, which was composed by Mervyn Warren. That Thang, performed by Solstice and the Mighty White. Dry No Olives, performed by John Gillipton. Follow Me by Uncle Cracker. The Way It Was, performed by Daniel May. Jingle Bells, performed by Dan Pinella, Rick Hoffman, Chris Wagner, Dean Butterworth, Tracy.
I mean, there's a Christmas theme. Can you even count Jingle Bells as like a separate thing?
Right. Well, Dave's reading off the entire
performed by Marcello. Bust a Move, which was performed by Marvin Young. Trouble with Me, performed by Lucy Woodward. Charge the Field. Showing Off, Hype the Crowd, were performed by the Riverside College Marching Band. Football Funk, performed by Ed Hartman. Cheerleaders, 1812 Overture, performed by Zombie Bank. Not So Bad Marching Band, also performed by Riverside. How High the Moon, performed by Les Paul and Mary Ford. Money Ain't a Thing, performed by Little Atlanta. Get Crazy by Zombie Bank and Red Rada. Chances, performed by Five Fighting Going Up the Country, performed by Canned Heat. And Southern Voice by Tim McGraw. They had to get that Tim McGraw country song in there. Hey?
But did they have to pick that one?
How can you even tell them apart?
Oh, I can tell them apart. Tim McGraw's got some great stuff. That song is not one of them. But anyway, like if we needed any hint that this film was trying to show that it was steeped in Southern whatever. I don't know.
I'm sure
I
there were
mean,
more
like-
Southern songs that Tim McGraw could have belched up for them, you know.
Yeah,
But,
they could have done any other thing. But anyway.
So what did? Kim, what did you think about the overall look of the
We
film?
were talking about music, Dave.
Whatever. I know you're. Huh?
I'm sorry,
I know,
what
but
am
I forgot her
The look and the music.
process.
I honestly didn't give two shits
Not,
about it.
not just the look of the music, but the what she thought of the production as well. So
I was too stuck on how shitty the story was that I didn't really give the production a whole lot of thought, except for, again, like we said earlier, they did a very good job of having the contrast of him living in the ghetto versus this ginormous mansion that the Toys allegedly own. So it's like, yeah, that was like, I mean, it was kind of an easy thing to do. Look at this horrible ghetto this poor black child comes from. And now look at the wonderful upper middle class or upper class enclave of the white Christian family. Look at it. So like, I thought that was like, okay, well, that's kind of easy pickings to do that. But other than that, I don't even remember the music from the goddamn movie. Because again, I'm too stuck on the shittiness of it.
I think.
okay. Heading over to favorite characters and or favorite scenes. I already kind of figure I know, Kim, your thoughts on that process. You don't really have a favorite character, nor do you have really a favorite scene, do you?
No, like I feel victimized by this movie. I feel racial microaggression by this movie. So no, I don't have a favorite character. The little boy was adorable, but again, like Brandon said, they were doing the Remember the Titans thing, because the son, he wasn't that little. He was much older than that in real life. So it's like they by aging his quote unquote character down, you had a cute kid for the cute moments and stuff like that. So like, oh, how Disneyfied, but. Other than the way that the little boy portrayed the character of SJ, no, I don't have. I'm sorry, I'm so bad.
Not a problem. Heading over to you, Dustin. Did you have a favorite character and or any favorite scenes?
I think I would go with the montage just overall when all the coaches are like, "Oh my god," that was fun, and Lord God help me, I have forgotten the main character's name. I remember Orr. I do not. Michael Orr. Jesus Christ, Dustin. It's midnight, right? Oh, it's 10:30. Wow, this bodes well. Fantastic. I mean, I thought he was fine, like as a character. Having known that he took real issue with how slow his character was depicted. Like, I didn't think that he played. I don't think that he was played like Tom Hanks playing Forrest Gump. He plays Forrest Gump kind of dumb. I thought that Michael was more believable, like as a person. Like he didn't really seem dumb to me. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to put into words because I have like my own mental disorders too, and so I think I more empathize with him. And there was a quote from the real Michael Orr in that article that we read. Where what exactly did he say? It was more so that, I had to start from pretty far behind, and once I got things figured out, I really wasn't dumb at all. Like I just didn't have, the proper, I don't want to say upbringing because that's not really right, but that's the first word that came to mind. It's like when you have to repeat two
Proper
grades,
schooling.
catching up. That's what it was. Like he had to catch up and start from like a big disadvantage. So like when you start like 2 grades behind, like I liked how his thing was that, once I actually had resources and, a footing, then I did fine. I wasn't dumb at all. And he took issue with how they just kind of kept him like stunted like that throughout the movie. And he didn't come off too stunted to me, but at the same time, I completely agree with the Regal guy's like assessment of that. So I think that was why I liked his character maybe the most. And just the everybody trying to scout him was really funny. Especially now that I know that those were like real coaches, because it's like, who gives a fuck about the coach? Like, how would you even know who those people look like unless you were like super into it, like looking at their pictures, like on your own time, So,
Okay.
that's kind of my thought on that. Do you have another thing that I made the connection to as we were talking over the last 20 minutes or so? So, like I said, my mom really likes this movie, and I think it might have actually gotten her to do some volunteer work because her and my stepdad do this thing every week called Rock House, where they basically, it's basically like a hangout that people can drop their kids off at, and it feels very like this movie. It's almost like a this is going to make it sound really bad. It's almost like a mission trip kind of thing. Exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's kind of like
a church put together or hangout so that they can feel like they're doing some kind of
disadvantaged kids like have a place to go like at night. So it's not exactly childcare, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's almost like nighttime kindergarten from the best I can tell. Like, and sometimes my stepdad talks about it. It's like, one time in the winter we had kids dropped off. They didn't have coats. They didn't have shoes. Like, what the fuck? How could you? This is a man who never swears, by the way. What the fuck? How could you not get them a coat? Like, are you kidding me? And like, he went out and bought
some
them.
people just can't afford it.
Well, I don't think he quite grasped that, but I don't know. So my mom kind of does, to a degree, something like this movie, like, and it's one of the better things she does with her time. So it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe I guess I'm trying to say it's kind of hard to judge, but it feels like maybe there's a connection there that I didn't see before. So.
Okay.
Hey, Dustin, so you're talking about the mission trip. Quick thing, Dustin. You're talking about the mission trip. There's a guy that I went to Christian school with that he and his wife, they raise money through their church every year to go on a quote unquote mission trip to Africa or somewhere in Asia. And they're gone for like a year or whatever. And then they come back, and they always come back with a newly adopted baby. Black or Asian. They always come back with another baby that they've adopted. And I say adopted in quotation marks.
Appropriated.
Yeah. More like they probably bought a kid. And everyone's like, you guys are you are the epitome of what a Christian's supposed to be. Like, shut the hell up. They buy the babies.
They follow me home.
I keep thinking about the religious cult up the street.
Oh, the people across the street, that white couple with a bunch of brown children.
Yeah.
I used to do like Christian homeschool, and it had like its own workbooks and shit. And I remember like reading some of the stories in there. It's like, his American parents adopted Lao. The communists came and killed my family with long knives on guns. And it's like, reading that at the time, it was like, oh my God. And then looking back at it now, it's like, oh, come on, guys. In the history textbook, we get this like tearjerker fucking. It was kind of amazing how much of that propaganda stuff is just sort of tied into that like white savior complex stuff. Like I don't know, it's kind of fascinating. I sort of want to read some psychology papers now.
All right.
As we get academic briefly.
So Brandon,
I'm done.
Your favorite character or favorite scenes from the movie?
I like the scene where the kid is interviewing the football coaches. As far as the favorite character, the woman from the NCAA, because she called him on it and she was right.
That is a pretty good point.
That pretty much hit it on the nose. If anything, she was the most truthful person throughout the whole thing, to be honest. But in any case, heading over to you, Jake.
Okay.
Favorite character or characters and our favorite scene or scenes?
Well, first, an interesting thing I just wanted to mention. I thought that the one teacher who was like a real hard ass, I thought he looked familiar. He's played by Tom Nowicki. Interesting tie-in with some of the stuff we've been talking about. He played, quote, community college coach in The Waterboy, and he was in our movie last week. He was Coach Ed Henry in Remember the Titans. So this guy kind of ties them all together. What's up? But anyway,
I was just laughing. That's all.
He was high on my list for least favorite characters. I'll say that. As far as this is a tough one. If I was going off of my original viewing and without any of the other stuff and whatever, and just like first impressions, I thought Sean was a cool character and I liked him. Now, based on what I know, I don't feel right picking any of that family as a favorite character. I'm not sure I can fully agree with Brandon either, because that lady was kind of a bitch, even if she was right. So I'm not 100% certain. I guess maybe Orr himself might be because he is a likable guy, even if it's not a realistic depiction. You can't help but like the kid and root for him. So I guess I'll go for that. As far as favorite scenes, I mean, again, most of this it's like favorite in terms of how it functions in the movie and favorite overall. It's kind of hard to pick. But I would say possibly I don't know. I guess there were moments of humanity throughout the film that, whether or not they're based in reality or undercut by reality, were nice little moments. And I guess I'll have to go with that. Maybe I know that's deliberately vague, but I'm not 100% sure I can pick a single scene that I would go with. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. Well, me, myself, are you pretty much done then?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Me, myself, it's hard to say myself, because now that I know the true story or whatnot, it's hard for me to balance what I like, what I dislike. I do think that for the time, as far as the information that was gathered upon, without actually talking to Michael Orr himself, which I don't think they did when they did this movie. I don't think I think they took the book and took the basis of the book and then ran with a family movie that kind of sounds reasonable for them, you know. And for that ultimate goal or whatever, I think the movie was okay. I mean, as far as that goes, but there's a lot wrong with this movie, and I am just as incensed as Kim is about this movie. Fuck this movie, as far as the story goes. So it's kind of hard to get behind this movie, but as far as favorites lines, I did like the line that Orr said in here. Hey, I was just taking him to the bus because I think he just needed to go home. You know, I think that was my favorite line and favorite scene in the entire movie. Like he said it all serious, like too. So it was like comical as well. And I also do like the negotiation of the little kid too. I have to get behind that one as well because I do think that little kid was the perfect little like kid to put in that kind of role. But that being said, unfortunately, like there's a dividing line of what is and what isn't wrong about this movie, and it's hard for me to pick and choose. If I were just going on the movie alone, I would choose Michael as my favorite character. And the little kid, my second. We even skated over the fact that apparently Michael went back to his home and actually went and he literally beat the living crap out of them dudes in his home for like making comments about his family and all that jazz, and that's when he went on his running thing to the laundromat. But yeah, that's about where I am with everything. I'm kind of in the middle of what I like. It's hard.
That scene was pretty wild. That he had like faster reaction time than that guy could pull the trigger on the gun. Like, wow. When the guy put the gun to his head, and, like just immediately like threw him before he could even finish the motion. So I guess we have to end the protection part because that fight was pretty well coordinated, I thought. There were effects in this.
Yeah, there were. But yeah, at the end of the day, did anyone else have anything else to add? Okay, so let's go. What? Yes. At the end of the day, I guess let's go into our outros. So, Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I have a YouTube channel, The Cryptid Horrors, where I am supposed to show off my cool horror movie stuff and occasionally do other things like review stuff. Like do unboxings for things I've collected. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, but the channel has been kind of crashed on hiatus to take care of like a bunch of mental stuff, health stuff that I've had crop up. Some of it even being like physical health deterioration stuff. So I haven't been able to post anything on there for a while, but I'm trying my best to start doing that again. So, go go sub to the Cryptophores YouTube channel. I'm working on changing the name to Cryptaxis so that it's just easier to find. And that's kind of where I am with my own content creation. I have an Instagram by the same name, Cryptophores, that I generally post more frequently my horror collection pickups on. I mean, it's been a really bad year economically, so there haven't been that many new pickups, but I've got all kinds of stuff that I've never shown before on there. So we're trying to get into the swing of that again. And you can follow me on Twitter, where I am Cryptaxis, and I'm just kind of there all the time. So if you want to know anything horror related, follow me, and yeah, listen to my various rants, similar to those I had today, on politics. It's fun. I have fun. I don't know if the audience has fun, but I have fun, and that's what matters.
Okay. Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm Kotobuki Jake. I am the co-host of Septum Sin vs. World on rare occasion. Who knows when stuff gets posted now and then. Stuff with me even more infrequently, but you never know. Meantime, I do keep very busy. I do have a full-time gig. I may have to pull up a second-time gig because I'm trying to move, and moving is, let's just say, this world is not made for people to live alone. You pretty much have to move in with someone at some point. And that's very frustrating and annoying. Anyway, we're not going to go on a rant there. Otherwise, just keep very busy. I do make time to watch movies for this channel, and it was instructive and relatively, in some ways, enjoyable to revisit this one. And I did it in the middle of, for various reasons, I've been really super lazy about getting prepped for this year's Oscar season. But since it was this weekend, I made a last-minute push, knocked out 3 feature films over the weekend in addition to watching this one again. And they were all excellent, and I have a feeling that they will all age better in the long run. I certainly hope so. And it was kind of fun, though. There have been a lot of movies in the last week. I'm hoping to keep that momentum going because we've got our nominations for the Versus Awards due, I guess, in a couple of months. So, what's that?
End of June.
End of June. So I need to get my butt in gear.
And if it helps, this is the first Oscars I can remember in a while where the best movie actually did win something.
And Oppenheimer is currently at the top of my list. There were some good films that actually got some love and some good films that didn't. And that's kind of true most years. But
I meant Godzilla -1, but Oppenheimer's probably fine.
Yeah, I was happy to see that Godzilla is now an Oscar-winning franchise. And it is an excellent film. But anyway, that'll do for me for now.
Okay. Heading over to you, Kim. Do you have anything to add? Oh, okay. Then Brandon, what about you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, Septum Sin versus the World. We talk about physical media when we are able to. There's just too many other. There's too many other fish in the kettle at the moment, but we are working it. But yeah, I do try to put out a little bit of content on the channel here and there. I've got a weekly thing where I talk about the new anime releasing every Monday. And then on, God, what was it? On Thursday, I try to put up something. This time, last week I did a director spotlight for Phil Herman. So I went through his entire catalog that I own. And I actually is one of the few directors I own about 90% of his catalog. So that's pretty good. And this week is going to be kind of in prep because I'm ripping a lot of those rarer DVDs because some of them are super rare and just backing them up. But tabletop and D&D and LARPing movies and series in my collection. Pretty much all the ones that I got pulled for our tabletop horror show, which we are only 3 episodes away from having a full season worth of shows, and we will be starting as soon as that's done.
Okay. Is that pretty much it then?
Because I'm going to be heading off right after this, next week will be my pick for sports. I'm not a very big sports person, so I decided to say, heck with it, let's just burn the world. And I picked Slam Dunk Ernest, which I admit I've only watched it once. Wet Movie One talks about it as his favorite Ernest movie. So maybe I was missing something when I watched it way back in the day. So maybe when I watch it this time, I'm going to go, oh my God, this is the best Ernest film.
And of course, you're keeping with the theme of the month of movies based on a real story, right?
Oh man, we should have done basketball.
I thought about it.
Very true story.
For a moment, I was like, why are we doing all these sports movies? Oh!
Mark? Oh, well, in any case, my name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Moies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey that we've been having. And I believe that we're almost at the conclusion of our March Madness themed month. So looking forward to this Slam Dunk Ernest discussion next week. Now, I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also go on every Sunday to talk about movies as well, with a whole different cast and group. So definitely join us as we will be talking about the movie Fluke this Sunday. So it's going to be some fun times, and definitely tune in if you can. We go on the Delusions of Grandeur channel at 1 every Sunday for the most part. But I'm also getting ready to release the first anthology to my project that I've been putting together called Tales of the Forgotten. Brandon and I will be over the next couple of weeks be getting together and finishing up the final touches on the artwork for the release that's going to be going up and out. So it's going to be exciting. Also, I do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time, and some interviews as well. So check out some of those. And honestly, lately, a lot of the games that I've been picking up for the PS4, I've been doing some gameplay on there. So check out some of my cool video game play. Just recently, I was doing some God of War gameplay, even though I beat it before. I'm going to beat it again online. So, in any case, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on Inside Moies Galore. Thank you so much, and enjoy. Everyone, say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.